Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Hard Claim with Viva Sam. I'm Sam, and this is a show where we talk to people who play Blood on the Clocktower and get their player perspective of the game. We're talking to several people who help run Final Three Con in Washington, D.C., and so joining us for this week's episode is Tricia. Thank you for joining.
Hi.
All right. So before we get into it, just real quick, what is Final Three Con, and what is your role there?
Yeah, so Final Three Con is a social gaming convention. Clocktower is definitely our biggest and most popular game that we have there, and this will be our third year of Final Three Con, formerly Clocktower Con. But we're bringing so many more games to the convention this upcoming year. We'll have Puzzle Box, we'll have some Survivor. um, and tons of board games and so much more. So you can look out on our website and find out more. And when events open, I'm sure you'll see so many fun things that you'll want to jump into. Badges for Final 3 Con are on sale now. You can find them at final3con.com.
Great. And what's your role at Final Three Con?
Yeah, so I am our volunteer organizer. So I'll be working on getting volunteers in, setting them up, making sure they're trained. So if you're interested in volunteering, information for that will be going out soon as well.
And we definitely thank the volunteers because I know that's a big part of any convention.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've volunteered at so many conventions. It's fun. And it's just a great way to get to know the convention a little bit, I think.
Yeah. All right, so we asked you to pick out a script, and you picked out a script of yours called Taco Bell Ravenswood Bluff. Yeah, so with that said, we passed out some characters. You drew the Poisoner token. So in night one, we would have told you that your demon is in seat 1 and your other minion's in seat 5. Just out of curiosity, what seat would you poison?
I would probably poison seat 11.
Seat 11. All right. We'll see how that works out later. But in the meantime, if we were chatting on day 1, what would you claim?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I'm usually like a very chaotic player, but when I'm evil, I tend to tone it down a little bit. But lately, I've been trying to go full chaos even when I'm evil. Um, so I would probably claim Poisoner.
All right, fair enough. All right. So when and how did you discover Blood on the Clocktower?
Yeah, I discovered Blood on the Clocktower in 2019, I think, somewhere around there. There's a big brewery in Boston that does a board game night every week, and I was just going with some friends. I had been seeing people playing this game in the corner for a few weeks, but it seemed a little intimidating. I heard them always like being like, "You're evil and you're evil." I was like, "Ooh, I don't want to do that." But then a friend convinced me to join one day, and I've just been hooked ever since.
And do you remember what like your first game or first several games were like?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember my first exact game. I'm not sure what role I was, but I do remember in my second ever game, it was Sex and Violets, and I was the good twin. Don't
Oh
remember what my role
wow.
was, but I remember Ted, my storyteller, pulling me aside at the start of the game and saying, just so you know, this is probably what your evil twin is going to do. It's not strange if they come out and say that you guys are twins, and if you need any advice, let me know. So it was fun. I feel like in my first game, I was probably really shy, but being the good twin, you kind of just have to dive into it like you're put in the
Hmm.
spotlight no matter what. So I think it was a fun one of my first few roles.
Excellent. And you said you're pretty much immediately hooked. What hooked you about the game?
Oh yeah, I just liked at first the puzzle aspect of it. It was fun to parse through information, figure out what's true and what's not. I would say that's changed a little bit now because now I just like making wild, sweeping, chaotic moves and just kind of just doing anything to just shake up the game a little bit. But I still like that puzzle aspect of things.
Hmm. Do you have an idea of how much you've played overall?
A lot.
A lot. How often do you get to play currently?
Currently, Probably, once every other week or so, usually in person. I live in Boston, so we have a lot of Clocktower games that happen around here. Last weekend, I actually drove down to Connecticut to play some Clocktower with the Blood on the Clocktower Connecticut folks. So um,
Excellent.
there's a lot of games happening all up in this area. So we're never short on Clocktower.
Excellent. So I'm curious about what you think about the differences between playing in person versus online.
Oh yeah. I definitely prefer playing in person. Um, I think I'm personally a stronger social reader, and it's so much easier to get a social read on someone when you're looking at them. There's so much to a social read that's in like body language, in
Hmm.
eye contact or not, um, and just one of my favorite things that I like to do is if I think two players are evil, just kind of stand close to them while they're having a conversation. You can't do that online, so while online, I think is still really fun. It definitely changes that aspect of the game. I think it emphasizes the puzzle a little bit more and less of the social read, which is definitely fun for some people. Um, but for me, in person is the way to go.
Yeah. And so, what about the differences between, like, what's appealing about playing in a convention setting in particular? And related to that, why should people come to Final Three Con to play?
Yeah, I think the best part of playing in a convention is there's just so much gaming to do. When we're in person, it's usually just a couple of hours, but when you're in a convention, you can try so many different scripts. You'll get a chance to play so many different characters. So it's really a way to test out all these different things in Clock Tower that you've wanted to try. You get to play with people of different experience levels. It's fun also to just shake up the normal group that you play with, because groups establish metas no matter what the group is of
Hmm.
this person always does this person acts like this when they're evil. So it's nice to shake that up a little bit and play with new people and try something new. And even me, I would call myself a pretty experienced player just in terms of the amount of games that I've played. And I love, my favorite thing in the world is playing with brand new players, because they always play the game differently than how anyone that's played it a bunch would play. They always do things that I would not expect. So I'm always learning things from
Hmm.
playing with newer players. It's my favorite thing in the world. So it's just fun to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, I've been running games monthly in person. I don't get to do a lot of in person stuff, but we usually have new players, and yeah, it's always fun just to see what they do, how they take to the game. We've definitely had a few situations where a poisoner poisons their demon, just either because they're not quite sure what they're doing, or,
Oh, I
or,
love that. I
or,
love that.
but
It's fun to know bad moves.
yeah, well,
In
one player did that, and so there were no deaths at night, but also it just so happened that was the night the monk protected the imp. So that monk just thought that player was good because clearly the demon tried to kill them.
See, you never know. You never know what can happen. I have so many stories like that in new games. Um, Yeah, it's always fun too to hear, like, if you have a game that's almost completely new players, what roles they think, especially in Trouble Brewing, are like the essential roles to keep alive, and what roles are expendable, because it's always different than what I think. Like they'll be like, "Oh, a soldier, we have to keep that person alive. They're important against the demons." So, and I feel
Right.
like sometimes the meta with people who played a lot is different. So it's always fun.
Yeah, and I do think a lot of players do benefit when they play with other groups. Because, like you said, groups do develop a meta, and that's not always a bad thing. It can be, but it's not necessarily bad. But just seeing how other people play can really expand that horizon, so to speak. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and we do run games every night here on Friday. If you ever wanted to come join,
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
I'd definitely be interested.
yeah. So I'm curious. Are you familiar with any, or have you played much with any other social deduction games? Like Werewolf, Avalon, etc., etc.
A little bit, yes. Werewolf, I've only played, I think, besides One Night Werewolf, I've played 2 games in my life. I've been the werewolf both of those games. Um, but I really, really enjoy, it's nice to take a break from Clock Tower and play something that's similar but different. I really enjoy how social read heavy Werewolf is. Um,
Hmm.
so I hope to be able to play that a little bit more in the future. Um, and then I've also explored quite a few other social deception, like actual physical board games. Um, so like Avalon, One Night,
Mhm.
Good Cop, Bad Cop is one of my favorite games of all time. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Have you played that before?
I haven't played. I think I've seen it before, and I don't remember it offhand. I think I remember it looking very interesting. So
Oh yeah, it's just a game that like changes every time. Sometimes my I get bored with games like Avalon because it feels like once you've played it like 3 times, you've done everything you can do in that game. But Good Cop, Bad Cop definitely has a lot of variety, so I love that game.
yeah, I'll try to keep that in mind. Maybe I can play it at Final Three Con. Who knows?
Absolutely, you can.
And One Night Ultimate Werewolf is definitely a favorite of mine. I don't play it much anymore, but it was actually my introduction to the gaming hobby in general.
Oh
Um,
wow.
I saw, what was the channel? There's a channel that would play it amongst other things like Mafia. And like I said, I wasn't really into board games yet, but I just was very addicted to that idea of, you're secretly working against everybody else. It just seemed very fascinating. Or, you think everybody's working with you, but some people secretly aren't. And
Yeah. Do you mostly play deception games?
sorry, what was that?
Do you mostly play deception games?
Not well. Now mostly it's just a blow on a clock tower, but I don't play just deception games. I had some friends over last night. We played Sagrada, which I think is a fun game, and I also taught them Dominion.
Okay.
So I won't say that I'm a heavy board gamer by any means, but I do like social deception games, but I also like other stuff too.
Yeah.
All right, so let's say you're sitting down before a game started. You haven't drawn your token yet. What are you thinking? What are you doing? Are you looking over the script? Are you kind of scoping out everybody else? What are you doing?
No, I have a tendency to not look at the script until like day 2.
Fair enough.
But no, I'm just buckling in. I don't typically have a preference of if I want to be good or evil. I'm always happy to just do whatever. Um, Although I will say it is a lot of pressure to be the demon, but it has its
Yeah.
moments too where that's really fun. Um, I'm just getting in the zone, and just gearing up to be as chaotic as possible.
Sounds good. So when you are evil, so does that mean you prefer being a minion if you had the choice?
Oh, if I'm evil, yes, absolutely. I think I play like a minion no matter what.
So what kind of characters do you like to draw that help you with that kind of play style? Do you prefer like a passive character? Do you prefer maybe like an info gathering character? Yeah.
I think I definitely prefer more of a passive role. I think sometimes if I have a role that is getting info that's actually important, then it feels like I actually have to solve the game somewhat. And I'm not the best at parsing through information. My one of my top 3 favorite roles in all of Clocktower is Poppy Grower.
Okay.
Um, so
Well,
I love either being it or just having it on script.
we'll be
And when
definitely
I move
talking about
on,
that one more later.
oh, fantastic!
But yeah, that's very interesting to hear.
But roles that give people just a lot of room to
Hmm.
play any way that they want are definitely my favorite roles.
All right, cool. And then thinking about the base scripts, we have Trouble Brewing, Bad Moon Rising, Sex and Violets. Is there a script you prefer over the other ones?
They're all great. I just think Trouble Brewing is she's that bitch, you know? She's she's perfect, she's beautiful. I can play her over and over and never get bored.
Yeah, I always make sure to run base scripts for my weekly games, usually about every other week, and I cycle through them. I have players who've played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and Trouble Brewing always, like, they'll get to the end of the game, they're like, I have no idea what's going on.
That's how I feel. I definitely had like a good like 2 years where I was just playing these convoluted custom scripts with all of these experimental characters. And remember the first time I went back to Trouble Brewing after like months of not playing it, and I was like, this script is so good.
Yeah.
So that's just how I feel now.
I love the variety of custom scripts. I think without custom scripts, my interest in this game would not have sustained for multiple years now.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, yeah, the base scripts in general, but especially Trouble Brewing, just you can't really top them. I mean,
Oh yeah, for sure.
do you have particular characters you like to bluff, or a type of character? And this is whether you're good or evil.
um, no, it would definitely depend on that game and who's playing, and usually what I did in the game right before it.
Fair enough.
um, I just had a game where I was the steward, and of course told almost everyone in town that I saw them. So the next game I was like, why not keep that up? I was the dreamer, but I'll be the steward again.
Right.
It worked for me once. I'll do it again. Um,
I think it's one of the best things about having a session of Clocktower 2 is like, I usually run 2 games in a session, and the second game is never completely separated from the first game because
yeah.
people are either still talking about it or referencing it. And I think that obviously speaks to the fun of the game.
Exactly. It definitely does.
All right, so how do you feel about madness as a mechanic in this game?
Oh, I love madness so much. I love when people really go for it. If you're mad as the savant, I love when people are really just making up information, really just living that life as if they are the savant. That's my favorite thing, both as a player and a storyteller.
If you're a Sarah Novus, what's your like strategy, I guess, for determining who to make mad as what?
Oh, I don't really have a strategy. I lately I've been interested in noticing people into those big info gatherer roles so that they can make up hopefully incorrect information. So like dreamers or savants, um, whatever seems important. Um, and I'm also always down to Sarah lock someone.
Fair enough. Do you have any particular strategy for playing mutant?
Oh no. Uh Mutant is fun. You can mix it up sometimes. I
Hmm.
once had a game where I think I like semi-successfully convinced town I was the pit hag as the mutant. Um but yeah, you can no, I don't have a set strategy. Mutant's one of my favorite roles. Um it's just fun to just go in with no plan and just see what happens. Sometimes a bluff just lands in your lap and it's fun to go with it.
Right. Yeah. All right. So I like to go through a section of quote unquote divisive characters and see what people think about them. And since you've already brought it up, let's start with Poppy Grower. So what is it about Poppy Grower you like so much?
Oh, I just love how much room it gives to just do crazy things. As an evil player, I love that it adds a little bit of the puzzle into the game because sometimes when you're evil, there's nothing to solve, and what do you do from there? Um, but as a good player, it's always just fun to see like, can I convince someone that I'm evil too, and see what happens. In my Hall of Fame games, one of my favorite games of all time, I was the Poppy Grower. I convinced a pit hag that I was another minion, and they pit hagged me that night into the Scarlet Woman.
That's great.
So
Did you end up being the demon in that game?
no,
No.
unfortunately, the demon made it to Final Three. Uh,
Well,
but I was just sitting back the rest of the game. I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to catch demon whatever comes my
that's great.
way.
All right. How do you feel about Snake Charmer?
Snake Charmer is okay. um, I think of Snake Charmer more as an info gatherer than like a character. Less thinking about the switching part of it.
Mhm.
Um, and so as an info gatherer, it's it's not bad. It's not very exciting. Um, but I think it's fun. I do think there is a benefit to picking a different person every night, really just kind of taking the risk. But I also don't blame anyone who doesn't want to do that, who picks someone, doesn't turn, and then is like, I'm just going to stay here the
Yeah.
rest of the game.
I definitely have a couple of players who they will only ever pick themselves, and that's it. And
Oh, come on.
and that's their style. I tend to play more conservatively. I'll probably pick a couple of people and then switch it over.
Now,
But
when do you come out as the Snake Charmer?
basically, whenever I've decided that I'm not picking anybody else, is probably probably a good time. Usually, I don't know, like day 3. I guess it depends on the game size and stuff too, and just generally what's going on. But I also haven't been the Snake Charmer that much, so who knows? Maybe if I had more time with it, I would start mixing it up more, and who knows?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, how do you feel about Atheist?
Sorry, what role?
The Atheist.
Oh, I've played a lot of games, and probably less than 10 of them have even been atheist games. Um, it's fun. I definitely think the fun part of atheist is when the good team can come together and
Hmm.
solve the game. Um, but I probably out of all the characters that are out right now, it's one that I have the least experience in, which is wild to think about. Um, but I still like it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I know for me at least, my thought with Atheist is it's good to use sparingly.
Exactly.
I don't run a lot of scripts with Atheists, and if I do, more often than not, I'm not having an Atheist in play. But sometimes you do, and you have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's even I just mean just having it on script. I can't even remember the last time I played an atheist script.
Yeah, I don't know if I can think the last time I've ran one actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Uh, but it's still fun in theory.
yeah. How do you feel about Heretic?
Um, I don't hate it. It's never going to be one of my favorite outsiders. Um, I have had some fun games where the heretic is really like that clutch thing that solves the game.
Hmm.
Um, but overall, I think it adds an extra layer that doesn't necessarily make the game more fun or less fun. It doesn't really change anything. It just kind of switches it a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mhm.
And then one final character for this section I usually like to talk about. How do you feel about Legion?
Legion, for the same reason I love Poppy Grower, I don't always love Legion.
Okay,
um, I think Legion is only fun in a Poppy Grower game. To
interesting.
be Legion, especially because otherwise it's so easy to sit back and feel like I have nothing to do. I know who the rest of Legion are. They all have great bluffs. I can just chill. um, but if there's a Poppy Grower, then it feels like, ooh, it's a fun, like, you can go up to people and be like, "Are you in the club? Do you know the secret password?"
Right. All right. Well, so we got one more section here. I like to do basically a multiple choice just to see how people answer. So your first question is Village Idiot, Banshee, or Magician?
Oh, Village Idiot, Banshee, or a Magician? Hmm. All characters that I don't love. um, I would probably go. I would probably go Village Idiot in that case.
Okay. Uh,
Mhm.
so Banshee's pretty powerful, and let me rephrase that. So what is it about Banshee that you don't like or don't
Oh,
care
I
for
just
as
think it's.
much?
I think it's a little boring.
Interesting.
It's a strong ability for sure. The 2 votes, the 2 nominations, great, but um, beyond that, like in terms of play style, there just isn't really like a lot of room to do much. Trying to die, I guess, at night is the fun part of Banshee, and then after that, it
Right.
feels like there's a lot of pressure on you to make some good moves.
That's
I'm
fair.
not a fan of that.
Yeah.
Banshee is just like a virgin that, has been weightlifting. Just a strong virgin.
I guess that's one way to put it. Magician, I'm less surprised to hear somebody doesn't really care for it, but curious what your thoughts are on Magician.
I think there's some potential for the Magician. Um, it's a little underpowered. Uh, I think the fact that the Magician has no information and doesn't know where to go from there makes it a little weak. Um, I really don't like that, if you're the demon, you can just kind of pay attention to who's talking to who and try to parse out who your minions are that way.
Hmm.
Um, But I think it's just really easy for evil team to kind of overcome the magician's ability. So it doesn't feel like it gets the chance to shine too much.
I think it's fair. I've heard it kind of criticized that it feels like an all or nothing kind of character. Either it does nothing or it causes an evil player to out to a good player and basically ends the game. I think I see it more as just kind of it delays evil coordinating, even if it's only by like a day or so. I can see why it's not considered to be particularly powerful, but that's how I look at it. At least I'm not a big fan either, but
Yeah, even that delay is not. It's not the worst, and sometimes
Yeah,
it doesn't even delay it by a day. Sometimes it delays it by one conversation.
that's true. Yeah. And even without magician, that could happen by itself anyway, right? Like sometimes evil just doesn't talk day one. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's fair. All right. So next question here we have damsel, puzzle master, or ogre.
Now we're talking. Now we're in some of my favorite characters. Um, I love I love when ogre's on the script. I will claim ogre. I will tell someone I picked them. Definitely one of my favorite of the newer characters that have been released. So I think I have to go with that. But Puzzle Master and Damsel are also really fun.
Yeah. I've said many, many times, I've been on record that ogre is my favorite character in all of Clocktower. I was
I
really
think
excited for it to come out.
I think it's moving up there for me as well.
Yeah. What is it that you like about damsel?
To me, Damsel and Mutant are the same. Um, except Damsel has a higher risk. But and
Right.
I've recently been in games where I was the damsel and I went for a bluff, really went for it, and it turns out that that was actually one of the demon's bluffs, so I got called out, uh, and we lost the game. But I think Damsel is just fun. It gives you a lot of room to play however you want, and uh, if you get caught, unfortunately your team will lose. But the good team needs to have your back. There needs to be more people
Right.
playing like a damsel when a damsel's on script.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've been saying a lot more recently. Is that it takes a good team to be covering for a damsel. I always think about Harold Holt's Revenge, where I've definitely ran games where the good team was just being a bit too honest about who they were, and it kind of made it obvious who the damsel was, and and that was that on day 5. So
Exactly. Yeah,
I
no,
do,
my recent experience has made it so that if there's a damsel on script, I'm gonna just start playing weird, even if I'm not the damsel.
that makes sense. Um, and I do like the analogy to damsel and mutant too. I have both those characters on extension cord, and that's how I see damsel in that script. Is it's a reason for a good player to be giving out bad information and
I just
hiding
put
who
two
they
and two
are.
together that that's your script.
That is my script.
I've played that. It's really fun.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I had the advantage that it was the script of the month for 6 months on the on the website. What is it you like about Puzzle Master, which is also on extension cord?
Oh yeah, I think it's actually pretty similar to Mutant and Damsel. I like the added drunkenness. Drunkenness in a game is just always fun. Misinformation is always fun.
Hmm.
And it's fun to track it down. Um, the if you make a guess, you learn who the demon is if you're correct. That's great. I never necessarily think about that aspect of Puzzle Master because I always kind of assume that a guess is wrong. Um, but it's fun to just have that added drunkenness in a game, I guess.
Yeah, I also like the bluffability of it because it's just really fun. I like Philosopher for the same reason, but Evil just claims, "Oh well, I'm a puzzle master. One of you all is drunk, even if they're not," and it gives you a reason to point at somebody and be like, "I think your information's wrong because of me." Um,
Exactly.
might good for a poisoner too, actually.
Yep.
All right, let's go to our next question here. We got Organ Grinder, Mezephiles, or Vizier.
Ah! I oh wow. I think I'm going to go with that's hard. I think I would go with Mezephiles, although I will say the fun part of Mezephiles for me is just having it on script. I will claim to be the Mezephiles publicly, but I don't necessarily have to be the Mezephiles. Um, and I will do that even if I'm good. Probably more, especially if I'm good. I'm going to claim to be the Mezephiles and give out Mez words. Um, so having it on script will definitely change the way I play.
One of my favorite things about running Mezephiles is, or running scripts with it. I've ran scripts where it's not even in play, and day one, everybody in town square is yelling out food words because somebody spread the word that, oh, the Mezephiles word is a food or something like that, and it just creates this just kind of funny, I don't know, funny conversations.
I had a game once where I was a spent Mez, but I came out publicly as the Mez and got like half the town to claim to me. So I added their roles in town. um, even I had no ability to give. I was just making up Mez words, giving them out as long as they told me their actual roles. So then I just came back in town and was like, okay, I know so and so is the innkeeper, so and so is the cannibal, so and so is the mayor. It's just fun.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the vizier and the outed evil nature of it?
I think that can sometimes be less fun. I just don't like it depends on the group. I don't like the meta that if someone's outed, then you don't need to talk to them. I always try to talk to like outed viziers, outed twins, just to include them in the game. But having your ability out can sometimes feel a little less like, well, now what?
I do like to brag about my group because my group is definitely the kind of group who will happily talk to an outed vizier or any other outed evil player.
Oh yeah, you should always do that. Everyone should always do that, no matter what.
Yeah, some groups don't. They will avoid the outed evil. I'm like, why? Like, it's not fun for anybody. I don't know.
I have information that can help the good team.
Exactly. All right. Well, one more question for these multiple choice. We got Leech, Riot, or Oho.
Not Riot, that's for sure.
Well, you don't like Riot, I guess, then?
No, I've played only a few Riot games too, but that's on purpose. The Oho is good in theory, but I would definitely choose the Leech in that case. The Leech is one of also in my top probably 10 favorite characters of all time. Just similar to other roles, I like that since the Leech can't die, gives you a lot of room to make all sorts of plays. And I like that there's some high stakes with picking a Leech host. You never know if you pick someone who wants to die or who doesn't want to die. That can be fun to try to convince someone. Like if you pick a chef who's like, oh, I've already got my information, I can die today, trying to convince them why they should live. That doesn't seem evil.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go through one more question here. So looking at the script that you've given us, what character would you like to be in real life?
In real life?
In real life. Interpret that however you'd like.
This script was completely made to be a meme script. Just about the experience of eating at Taco Bell. It was made in maybe 5 minutes with no thought to how the characters interact or if it actually works. And I've played it in person at almost every convention I've been to, and it is surprisingly fun. It works surprisingly well. It makes some very silly games. In real life, out of all the characters here, I'm probably going to choose either the lunatic or the goblin. No, you know what? I don't need to choose the goblin. I'm going to claim goblin anyway. I'm probably just going to go with the lunatic.
All right. So what's the thought there? I guess with lunatic.
I think it's fun to just think you're something, be something else. Delusional. That's how I live my life all the time. So it matches. It matches my real life.
All right. So, all right. Before we go, remind us again when and where is Final Three Con?
Yeah, Final Three Con is April 25th through 27th, and it's going to be in DC.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you for joining us this week. It's been great.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, and thank you all for watching. We'll be back next week with another episode of Hard Claim with Viva Sam. See you then.